Recently, I received a comment on my video on Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, where I showed you the chords that Beethoven used. And this commenter wrote, "Thank you. It was enlightening. Can you please talk about chords from a very personal point of view? Which ones you really like and why? Any favorites or good chords that affect you? How did you personally learn and practice chords? Do you still have goals with respect to learning and playing chords? Is there an easy-to-follow stepwise plan to become a chord virtuoso?" I thought it would be interesting to answer these thoughtful questions. In fact, no one's ever really asked me if I had a favorite chord or which chords I really liked. So which chords do I really like? Well, of course, I like them all. Different types of chords create different reactions in me. For example, triads, simple three-note chords. They give me a feeling of rootedness, something solid and dependable, something that you can build on, like the foundation of a house. Seventh chords? Well, these can be quite colorful. A dominant seventh chord, for example, it leaves you wanting to get on to the next thing. By itself, it just leaves you hanging. Now, every type of seventh chord actually can resolve to another chord naturally. Take the 5 major types of seventh chords, the 5 most common. You have major sevenths. They can resolve. Dominant seventh, of course, can resolve. Minor seventh. Half diminished seventh chords. Diminished seventh chords, well, they can resolve just about anywhere. Then you get into ninth chords. I love ninth chords. It's getting very interesting now. And I'll talk more about ninth chords in depth later on. Not in this video, but in a future video. What is my favorite chord? Well, I'll tell you. It's considered a jazz chord, if you like, and you could call it a polychord, or 2 chords on top of each other. This would be the easiest way to look at it. So here's my favorite chord. It would be D major over C7. So you got C7 in the left hand, D major in the right. There it is. It's not really a major chord. It's not really a minor chord. And I just call it D major over C7. And of course, you can transpose this chord. Now I've got E flat in the right hand and C sharp 7 or D flat 7 in the left hand. And you can just keep playing it. I've probably thrown that chord into more than one song in live performance. I just love this chord for whatever reason. Another question that I was asked by this commenter was how you personally learned and practiced chords. Well, like many piano students, I was primarily taught how to read notes. And so I never really thought much about chords until I started studying music theory in high school. I took a class, and this was back in the 70s. It was called harmony, but it was really beginning music theory. And I began to learn about the different chords. And I was fascinated by this, by the fact that songs could be written using chords and melody. And actually, I worked ahead on my own and tried to find out as much as I could about chords and how they work together. So I actually went way beyond what was actually taught in the class. And then when I got to college, I majored in music theory. And so I ended up learning even more. Now, I was still primarily reading notes as a classically trained pianist, and I first learned to play from a chord chart rather than strictly reading notes when I auditioned for a Christian music group called the Continentals. And I went on tour with them in the summer of 1978. Obviously, I passed the audition, but I quickly had to learn how to read a chord chart rather than just playing the notes. And so I had to learn how to do a bit of improvising. I had to learn how to create my own parts. And really, I'm not through learning. One of my goals is to delve further into the world of jazz. I've kind of dabbled in it. I've learned to play it to a certain degree, but I still want to master the most complex chords. And now the final question from this comment was, is there an easy-to-follow, stepwise plan to become a chord virtuoso? Well, yes and no. It's relatively easy to get started, but as you go along, things get more and more involved. And so that will be the subject of an entire course that I'm putting together. How to become a chord virtuoso. Anyway, now you know my favorite chord and how I feel about chords in general. I love them. I think they are a wonderful thing for you to learn and to understand, and this will help you to play all of your favorite songs, and incidentally, play them in any key that you want. There's so much to learn, so much that I want to share with you, and I appreciate you watching this particular video, and I hope that you will take the time to like this video, subscribe to the channel. That helps the channel a lot. You can support my work on Patreon, and the link will be in the description. I look forward to speaking to you in the next one.